Hi guys, happy Wednesday. This video is about finding our soul purpose. I'm a channel, and so I can read I can channel, I can intuit, and I can know what your purpose is. It's a bit like when people do the Akashic records. But I do it intuitively. I'll be able to tell you what your kind of karmic cycles are. I can release past traumas, past lineages, but more importantly, and what I care about most, is putting us into alignment, what I call self and soul alignment, with who we are, as in our human self, with who we are, integrated with our self and soul is what I call it. It's our fullest expression of self and soul, which means our human and our souls are aligned, which means we're living in alignment with our soul purpose. Now, we have different roles we play in our life, but our purpose is beyond that. We incarnate as a soul on the planet to do something very unique. The other thing is we have very unique gifts. If we're on a soul-aligned journey, there are very unique gifts that we each have, but sometimes we don't recognize them. We all have a very unique journey as well, and sometimes, again, I help people understand the spiritual context, the karmic context of their journey, because sometimes we can't make sense of our journey, but we will in hindsight. And often the lessons, the cycles, the traumas are the exact ones necessary to catalyze and alchemize us into our truth, into our power, into our potential. But if we don't know how to clear the traumas, and we don't know how to get out of these karmic cycles, then instead of living our soul purpose, we get stuck in a loop, yeah? And the time now on the planet isn't to stay stuck. If anyone wants to channel reading, just let me know, by the way. I'll channel for you today if you want me to. If you want me to connect to your soul purpose and connect into you, tell me a bit about what you're doing, and I'll channel some stuff for you. But what I'm trying to say is that we have everything inside of us that we need for the soul purpose and to be fully expressed. And fully expressed to me means living in my highest alignment, my highest vision, according to my highest potential and ideals, mine, what's true for me. Only our soul knows what's fulfilling to us. The ego doesn't. So the ego will look around and go, well, she's got this and he's doing this, and maybe I should try and do that. The ego will chase happiness externally. But the soul is the true GPS that will guide us into our alignment. If we have in our hearts the desire abundance, and by the way, I'm excellent at activating abundance and aligning you with your soul in a way that is abundant. I believe we're meant to thrive. I believe you're meant to be monetized in who you are and what you love to do. I do it with people every day as my job. That's exactly what I believe we're here for. But where was I on this? So we want to first of all understand our soul essence, our soul alignment, and then we want to come into integrating our human self, right? Releasing traumas, developing ourselves into our authentic power, so that we're working in alignment with who we really are, what we came to do, our spiritual context, yeah? And then we will be easily able to receive the abundance and break the lineage in the now to become the person we came to be on the planet, right? And that's basically the core of all my work. So your soul whispers. The soul doesn't shout. The ego shouts. The ego works from fear. The ego compares. The ego believes in competition, that somehow that. And again, if we're working from ego, there is competition, because if we're trying to be someone we're not, and if we're copying or people-pleasing or doing things that aren't in true alignment, we're not actually in our true power. When we're aligned with our soul, we are unique. We are the best at what we do, because no one can do what you can do in the way you do it. When we're aligned with our soul, we're the best at what we do. That's not that you're better than anyone else. It's just that you, in alignment with your soul purpose, with your mission, doing it your way with the unique gifts that were already given to you. When you can break the karmic chains of the patterns and cycles that are no longer serving you, there's no competition. There's only you on the planet being supported by the universe abundantly. There are some people that need to hear whatever it is from you that you do. There are some people that need to receive it from you. We are connected. We are interconnected, right? So part of what I do in Elevate You is putting that in, getting that alignment right. But if you're not sure and you want to go on this, you're trying to figure it out for yourself, our soul is always guiding us. It's always talking to us, just by simple things, even the movies that have moved us, or books that have inspired us, or things that we're called to learn that we haven't quite managed to put together yet. These fragmented things that inspire us, that we're drawn towards, are usually always to do with our soul purpose. Yeah? The stories we can't quite get out of our head, the people we're attracted to in some way, the music we like, all of it is aligned with our soul purpose. The universe is always talking to us, and often through people. Often people will notice things about you that are unique, that you might take for granted, because so many of us, visionaries, healers, light workers on the planet, don't really understand how unique our gifts are. And actually, sometimes we get so caught up in our own trauma, so book in for a trauma release session if you need one, that we think we're damaged, rather than understanding that some of us on the planet will go through a lot more trauma because we're great teachers, we're great healers, yeah? But it is time to heal, which is why I'm doing the one-off trauma release sessions, why I want people to come into Elevate You and do the trauma release work, so I can do the energetic work and put you into your purpose and your business and brand. I'll give you all the strategies, I'll give you the aligned, I've got a ton of business and brand experience, but doing something out of alignment will never be as effective or as fulfilling for us, hello Brooke, as doing something in alignment with our soul. So the hardest thing for us when we are soul aligned, or has been often in history, is not to monetize our loves, not to monetize our passions. And that is now not even, well, it's never been true necessarily, but there's never been more opportunity on the planet than to monetize who we are and what we love than now. But sometimes we just not in our power around it, or we've got old programs and patterning making us believe that, you know, our passion gets to be a hobby and work is something we hate. Now, I remember, like, when I first noticed this, when I realised how important it was to love what you do, it was when I heard a statistic, this was a long time ago, 20 years ago, that most people in the Western world die at 10 a.m. on a Monday morning. And I realised that wasn't just a health, like a diet issue. That was people getting stressed, going to work and probably doing things they didn't like. At the time, I'd just done my law degree and I got a job in a very fancy law firm, and I quit after a year and travelled the world and figured out my purpose, because I didn't want a life sentence. I wanted a life. I wanted to prove, and which I have done, I didn't know how at the time, but I was available for it energetically, that you could be fully expressed, that we could be monetized, abundant from doing what we love. I believe that's what we're supposed to be doing right now. I believe in every cell of my being that the opportunity is now. I do believe that there's never been a better time for this. And not only that, it's required. Because as we evolve over time, right, we evolve out of things. The human race wants to go forward. Acting like slaves, doing things we hate, thinking that's how we have to be controlled by money, isn't in our highest intentions and outcomes. I'm here to prove that everyone on the planet can do what they love and monetize it. I'm here to prove that you don't have to endure the physical, mental, spiritual consequences of doing things that aren't good for you. It's not just what we eat that isn't good for us. If we're not productive, if we're not expressed in the world, right, it's damaging to our emotional state. Why do you think so many people are depressed and numb out? They're trying to sleepwalk through life rather than being ignited. When you get into your purpose and when you know you can be supported, and there's many ways you can do that. I help people monetize in many ways, right? It's life-giving. The work I do is life-giving. I'm not drained after I speak to my clients. I'm not drained on what I do. It's like as if I was painting a picture, you know? I'm energized. It's expressive. It's what I love. And it gives me life. It gives me life force energy. And people in their life force energy have a lot of power and a lot of contribution, and they can attract a lot of abundance. So I can put money in your soul purpose in alignment. There's no issue with that. But we've got to break away from the traumas, break out of the chains, and start seeing things differently. The essential on the planet is this. It's about us coming into full expression. It's thrown up just with total dread. I've thrown up, my goodness, Brooke, I've thrown up with total dread driving to my day job. You see, like, what a mess we've made of our world. You know, that work is the place we spend the most amount of time, most amount of hours. So for most people, that's what, 45 hours a week, I think, in something that could make them vomit. You know, I promise you there are other ways. I'm going to keep shouting about it. I'm going to keep showing you different things. I'm going to help you think differently, raise your consciousness, raise your vibration so that we stop this. The industrial age that we've come out of before the digital age was very much very heavy in that old thinking. The digital age has now given us so much more ability to know beyond that. And like, it was cultured into us to do something you hate, to basically give your talent, your expertise, right? Well, the digital not only has enabled us to work with people all over the world. My clients are global and they have been for the last 10 years. I've been a digital nomad before I moved here. I was a digital nomad for 10 years working with massive brands, massive companies even, all over the world, right? So and I was doing most of it remotely. So we don't know what's available to us. That's the first thing. We have to raise our awareness, our consciousness first. So when I left my law job, I had no idea there was anything on the planet for someone like me. Not only had I already gone through my own one awakening at the time, I've had many since then. I've had multiple awakenings that don't feel like multiple orgasms. They can sometimes feel like dark nights of the soul, but they do make you stronger on the other side, especially if you know how to navigate them. But I'd healed my body at 15 of a chronic disease. So I was always obsessed with mind, body and personal development. I'd self-healed a disease out of my body that they told me, hi Sylvia, that I was going to be on dialysis for. They couldn't understand what was causing it. And I started on this, I already had psychic gifts even young. And I remember I became immune to all antibiotics. And so the doctor couldn't, and I was peeing blood, and it was, constant. It was very, very painful, very acute, dangerous. People were, the doctors were worried. And I remember going to the hospital, and I was having it was an increased episode every month, and them saying to me, right, you're immune to all antibiotics. We're going to have to put you on a dialysis because your kidneys are going to fail, and you're going to have to come in and have intravenous antibiotics. Hi, Lisa. So every cell of my body said no to that. And I went on a journey, and I'd already had, I was an awake child. I was a very intuitive child. I already had a very strong spiritual kind of thing, but I didn't know anything about natural health. I started becoming obsessed with it. Now, in the olden days, when I was a young girl, there was no internet. So I had to go to the library, and I started studying things. And obviously our purpose finds us. Our soul purpose always finds us. I started learning about Reiki and homeopathy from books. I found a local woman who did homeopathy. Her name was Helen. I'll never forget her. And I wasn't going to go back to the doctors or the hospital, and I didn't. Within 3 months, it wasn't just the homeopathy that she taught me. I'd started opening my channel. I cleared up this condition. To this day, which is a lot later, I've never had an operation. I healed my body of something they told me would kill me. So at 15, I already had an awareness of my spiritual gifts. I had an open channel, and I knew I could heal myself. Yeah. Then I get this fancy pants law job because I was very smart at school. I had a scholarship, and people like me either they told me, law or medicine. But I had this massive spiritual side, and I knew I had intuitive abilities and healing abilities now. And I was an artist. I loved art. I was a real creative thinker. No one tells you, we're just talking because we're talking about doing something that's aligned with our soul. Britt was telling me something about vomiting, going to work. I was talking about it's a life and death issue for some people, that it can make you ill doing work that's not good for you. And I want us all to know that you can monetize who you are and what you love. I've proven it time and time again. Everyone on the planet can. Never has there ever been more opportunity for it than now. But anyway, I go to the law job because no one will let me do art or English, even though I love it. All my teachers and parents and everything. No one told me that if you're bright academically and you're arty, you're an entrepreneur. You're a creative thinker. And I was more creative, to be honest, than I was academic. So the law thing never suited me anyway. And then I hear this statistic that most people in the Western world die at 10 a.m. of heart attacks. And it hit me to my core, literally stopped me in my tracks, that people were dying of heart attacks at 10 a.m. on a Monday morning because they were doing jobs they hate. It wasn't just to do with their health. I could feel it in every cell of my being. I'd already started studying with medical intuitives because I was so interested now in mind body. I'd healed my own body. That's a whole different story, but the details of how I did that. But I'd started opening my healing channels then. I wanted a life, not a life sentence. I couldn't understand the world. I'm like, why are people doing things they don't like? Why is going to work making them sick? Why are we putting this amount of pressure? I couldn't get any of it. So within a week, I'd left the law job. I resigned, which everyone was just, there was no support for me and the people close to me. They were just like, you are nuts. No one's ever going to employ you. You're so lucky to have got this opportunity. you know, you're one of the luckiest people to have been allowed in here, and now you've quit it. Your life is over. Dun, dun, dun. But luckily, because I had been in the law firm for a year, and it was a very fancy pants law job, I earned quite a bit of money for that time. I mean, for now it wouldn't be nothing. It's nothing, but you know, for how young I was and I was starting out. So I'd gone to the bank the week before I quit and said, look, I need a loan. This was a bit naughty, so just bear in mind, I did pay this back. But I said, you know, I've got this fancy job and I need a car. Can I have a car loan? And they let me, at the time, £5,000. I did pay it back, but it wasn't quite true that I wanted it for a car. What I did do was then a week later book a trip around the world because I wasn't going to have a career I hated. And I didn't know who I was yet. I had these fragments. I could heal myself. I'd been studying personal development and healing from a very young age anyway. I was a bit weird because I was a big introvert. I was super bright academically, but it didn't feel like me because I was a creative. And I had these spiritual gifts and awarenesses that were quite freaky, to be honest. And I grew up in a very chaotic, abusive household. So I didn't know what any of that meant. But I did know I would like to travel. And I thought, I'm not doing a job I hate for the rest of my life. I don't know who I am. So I backpacked around the world. I followed my inspiration. The soul told me to get that loan. I don't think you could say to someone, like when you know, I was supposed to get the loan for a car. I don't think I could have said to the bank, my soul is telling me to travel the world. They probably wouldn't have understood that, right? But we get it, right? I was spiritually supported in it. It was a little white lie, but I'm not for lying ever and doing anything like that. But I did pay it back, and it was important for me. It was part of my growth. I could have bought a car, but a car would have kept me stuck. So I start backpacking around the world, and I start learning more than I've ever learned. I learned more from backpacking the world than I did for university and all my studying, because I did grow up in a chaotic household, so I used to just read non-stop. I would read books. My story was a bit like Matilda, I feel like. You know, if you've ever seen the Ronald Dahl Matilda tale, you know, that was my outlet to learn and learn and learn. I still love learning. It's not a trauma response, you know, it just is who I am. Hi, Renee. So I'm obsessed with learning, I'm obsessed with development, I'm backpacking the world, deciding that I'm not going to do the law job that's not aligned with me. I've got different gifts and experiences. I also don't want to die in a job that is stressful and people hate and they're just doing to get money because money's controlling them. None of that made sense to me. Hi, my love. So I travel the world and I have a fantastic time. I learn a lot about cultures. I learn a lot about myself. I had a lot of panic attacks flying at the time. I mean, now I've been and travelled to 42 countries in my life, right? But when I got on those planes to travel around the world, bought around the world ticket, I am telling you, the first one took off. I went to Thailand. It was 13 hours. As soon as it took off, I couldn't breathe. I was having the worst panic attack of my life, and I was on it for 13 hours, and I knew I had another 12 trips, right, to do long haul, and at the time I was scared of flying, and now I've flown to 42 countries around the world. That makes me a bit emotional, but there's nothing you can't get past, right? I promise you, I did so many things in my life, but it wasn't because I was so good. It was because I was brave. I was braver than most people. I was shit scared in so much of what I did. I came from a difficult upbringing. I didn't have family support. I didn't have money behind me. You know, I was just brave. That was all I was. Anyway, so I travel but this is all awesome, right? So I travel the world. I have this amazing adventure. I see countries. I see lifestyles. I'm opening up now. And I'm thinking, you know, the purpose of this 12-month trip was I would understand what I was here on the planet to do when I got back, right? But it gets to 12 months. I've been to Australia and New Zealand and Fiji, and I worked in Australia because I ran out of money. You know, I had some life issues to deal with. Now, I wasn't just in my fancy pants law job. You know, I was young. I was a year ahead at university. I was a smart kid in academics, but that's not smart. That's not true to me, right? Just being smart doesn't mean I want to be a lawyer, right? And it doesn't mean that anyone's ever understood me because I had a different kind of heart and I had a different kind of energy. And, you know, I didn't want to be put in that box because I could get things right in exams. That doesn't make you smart, you know. People make you smart. I've worked with celebrities and leaders and people who have changed the world and done crazy things on the planet. And I'll tell you what, emotional intelligence makes you smart. Emotional intelligence. When if you can connect to people's hearts and minds, and that's what I love to do. And I used to always get told off for it. People would be like, you wear your heart on your sleeve, that's a problem. Shut your mouth, be pretty, shut up. You know, don't have a point of view. I used to ask so many questions because I had that kind of brain as well. And I used to get shut down all the time because, like, you're not allowed to ask questions. You know, I was a creative thinker. entrepreneurs, by the way, ask great. Now, since then, some of the best companies in the world have employed me, like huge names like Condé Nast, or the biggest media companies, to come in on innovation projects. Why? Because I think differently and I ask questions. And when they wanted to innovate, when digital came in and magazines weren't going to be as popular, or different media companies, different things going on, they asked me to come in and lead the innovation because of the way I think. But when I was younger, this is what I'm trying to explain. Our sole purpose is there for us, but it's going to be different. When I was younger, these were problems about me. These were things that people told me were not good. I should shut up and just be smart and not question things, right? Not be a creative thinker. I didn't know the word innovation then. I didn't know the word entrepreneur. I didn't know that's what I was. I didn't know how you become someone smart at business and a healer, but I am now. So anyway, putting the pieces together. So I get back from the year trip and I still don't know what I'm supposed to do on the planet. I don't know. I've spent a year. I've done everything that my soul told me to do. I get back. So I called the law firm and I got on very well with the people there and said, look, I don't want to work here, but I need to figure some things out. I do feel I was right to quit, but would you accept me as a temp? Would you accept me as a temp while I figure out what I'm meant to do? I don't want a permanent job. And they liked me and they let me do that. And so I temped for them for a bit, and literally, it looked like nothing was going to happen. I thought, oh God, I've got this loan now. I've quit my job. I quit the job a year ago. It was in a top 5 law firm. Now I was told that other law firms are not going to employ you, even if you did want to be a lawyer now, because you don't quit that kind of job that people go for multiple interviews for just because you want to travel the world and you've got a different thing, right? So, and I knew I wasn't going to stand for what I didn't believe in. I've always had that in me, not because I had any support, no family money, nothing like that. I was on my own. I was on my own at 18, supporting myself, right? So it's not that I had some kind of silver spoon and, it was very easy for me to just have the luxury, what people think of as, and I'm not against this, by the way, but I'm saying it didn't come in easy circumstances. It wasn't that I didn't have to fend for myself. From very young, I did. Anyway, so I'm thinking about it and I'm holding I know what I'm doing, right, in hindsight, but at the time I didn't know what I was doing. I was holding the vision. I was keeping the vision alive, which I would teach people now to help them manifest. So about 6-7 weeks into this job that I thought, gosh, am I going to be stuck temping here for the rest of my life? Who am I? What am I? I get a phone call. And it was from the restaurant manager at Jamie Oliver in London. Jamie became one of the biggest personality-led brands in the world, and I became a director of his business. But I get the phone call from a restaurant manager who says, we know you're smart, and because I knew we had similar people in common. And we need someone to help us. We're set, Jamie's on television. He just got on a TV show. We're building this restaurant. We need someone smart on our team. Would you come in for 3 months on a temp job? And I was just really coming in to help them with legal stuff. I helped them write NDAs, which are confidentiality agreements. I wrote their employment contracts because I had a law background, very briefly. But I had a bachelor's of law. And that 3 months turned into 9 years. And that job taught me who I was. My CEO ended up being John Jackson. John Jackson was one of the 7 core board directors of Virgin. If you know the Virgin brand, it's Richard Branson's brand. He's a billionaire, and Virgin, an extraordinary brand. So I was, in the end, mentored by him. But he helped me know who I was, and I became the business development director and the board director in the end of many of the core companies. And I was responsible for setting up businesses and businesses that didn't rely on, because Jamie was a big celebrity now, rely on his personal time, but that would expand our business. I developed new concepts around his kind of essence, right? So I got very good at branding, strategy and franchising, and I took us all over the world in various ventures, and we went from 0 to 500 million in 9 years, and I was a board director. But there was a lot of following my soul, following my intuition, and knowing the next piece, and sitting in the unknown, but choosing not to follow my heart. I kept my heart available for what my next thing was, and it came to me. And I believe this about what we get to do, and I believe it. I believe it in every cell of my being. In that job, all my dreams came true, because after I travelled the world once, I wanted to travel the world. And I got to 5-star hotels, first-class travel, meeting partners, beyond my wildest dreams. I also got to experience how to, which I always wanted to do, work with socially conscious people, making real change in the world. He changed government policy, he changed awareness on obesity, so many things we got to do. I got to do TV, books, television, business building. I was an entrepreneur within an organisation, and it was who I was. And I got to use my healing skills, not as much as I do right now because I've expanded my channels and stuff, but I got to lead people in our teams. And the way I helped develop our teams and nurture them was through personal development that I knew how to do and healing them as we did it, right? So that was 10 years of my life. And then I went on after that and have had my own businesses, many of them since then, in terms of, and consulted major brands and businesses. But what the point of that was, I didn't know, but I knew I wasn't going to back down on all these different aspects of me. I knew I was going to put them all together and monetize them. I know that you can do that for you too. I know you can monetize who you are and what you love. I've done it for so many people in my life. I've been around so many people that do. Like what Brooke said about being sick, vomiting because you're doing some work that you hate. You put your most time into work, right? When you're passionate and soul aligned, the money's there. I bring people into abundance. I've worked with so many people and helped make them rich, what they call rich and famous, right? Because of this. You don't have to be rich and famous, but if you want, it depends on the level of what kind of impact you want to have. But if you just want to monetize what you love, I promise you I can get you there. And I want to do this on the planet. I know the time is now. There is enough of this rubbish. We're not in the industrial age. You can do this now. If you're here to help people, heal people, share innovation, do new stuff in the world, the money's there for it. People just aren't taught it. They're taught this slave mentality. I was doing it then, right? And the time is actually now more than ever. So if you're trying to build a business, a brand, you're trying to get clients, you're trying to start a new product, sell products that come from your heart, that do great things for humanity, you need to come into Elevate You. It's 10-week immersion. We go through all of that. You need, it's possible for you. If you've been buying into things and looking for strategies, but they're not aligned with who you are and your soul, they're not going to work for you in the same way. That's the problem, you see. And that's what's frustrating me about the internet. That's why I came online, because I've got consultancies and agencies. The online thing for me is about showing every person on the planet this is possible for you and proving it can be, because I've done it for people. I've done it from people starting out. I've done it with people online now since 2017. That course has been going since 2017. People that never made a penny online broke through in my course. People that never, extraordinary things happen in what I do. I'm an expert in all these different areas. I can heal your trauma and I understand business and strategy at a level that most people on the internet don't. They haven't worked with some of the best brands in the world. They haven't been an entrepreneur over multiple businesses. They haven't scaled a business from 0 to 500 million, right? So I've got the business experience on an entrepreneurial company, coupled with the ability to work with people just starting or who've got to maybe a good level, but they really want to break through. They're doing things that don't suit them or not in a fully expressed way. Yeah, I'm meant for this. I'm built for this. And I've expanded it to be able to do it with more people in the mainstream because I believe in it. When people take their power back this way, not only are they healthier and more fulfilled, they do great things on the planet that move us all forward, that are just wonderful things. There is abundance for it. God is behind your spiritual purpose. We want to break karmic cycles, get out of lack, get out of poverty, get out of scarcity, monetize your God-given gifts. Come and do what you're meant to do. So that course is available to you. It's not open all the time. That's why I'm promoting it now, because it's open in November. I don't know when it's going to be open again. I recommend coming into that course. I recommend coming into your soul. I will show you things and I will make you see things differently, because I'm an expert at principles, at how and why things work, energetically, spiritually, and in business. I know any brand you could think of that if I know about them, I'll be able to break down how and why it works. You see, it's not copying someone's strategy that works. It's when we understand the principles and can bespoke them to ourselves. That's when we break through. I activate your genius in that course. I align you with your right sales strategies. I make you magnetic to your clients and customers. I bring all sorts of things into it. You'll have a roadmap for life that you can keep going back to, that is your linchpin, that will be the thing that will bring you back into your soul essence and help you navigate your entrepreneurial journey. So DM me about that. Any questions, let me know, and lots of love. I'll speak to you soon.